call the meeting to order if we're all ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right. First thing, we will do a roll call.
Committee Member Brennan.
Here.
Committee Member Cotter.
Here.
Committee Member DeMeno.
Here.
Youth Member Mansfield.
Here.
Committee Member Newman.
Here.
Chair Lopsinger.
Here.
Thank you. Let the record show that Vice Chair Branconi and Committee Member Wyrick are absent.
All right. Next, we have we're moving on to the approval of the agenda. Does anybody from the committee have any changes to the agenda? Not seeing any. Is there any public comment regarding the agenda, just the agenda alone? All right. And is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
All right. And let's perform a vote.
Committee Member Brennan.
Aye.
Committee Member Cotter.
Aye.
Committee Member DeMeno.
Aye.
Youth Member Mansfield.
Aye.
Committee Member Newman.
Aye.
Chair Lopsinger.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
All right. Just get situated. All right. Next, we'll move on to public comment. At this time, members from the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It is recommended that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the Traffic Safety Committee. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for committee consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium, speak in the microphone, and begin by stating and spelling your name. Are there any comments, public comments regarding anything that's not on the agenda for tonight? No?
My name is Tiari Welch, and I live on Malay Street.
Could you please spell your first name?
Tiare.
Thank you.
And so this is about the speed on our street. And there's a few things I wanted to say about the whole thing, so I hope I can kind of put all this together. I've lived there probably about 40 years. We live close to the high school. Originally our street was not a through street, so it was kind of a quiet, it's kind of a rural residential street, like Harrington Drive, and Friar Creek is now built around, so it's like a green belt kind of area, and people love to walk their dogs, ride their bikes, just walk. So it's kind of a pedestrian kind of feel there, and sort of country in an unusual way, close to town. So lately there's just been a lot of people speeding. There's like 4 or 5 or 6 children that live on the street, you know, pets, people riding their bikes, people walking their dogs, and it's kind of a park-like pedestrian feel. So ideally I would like to consider closing the end of the street again, having it open to emergency vehicles, you know, bicycles and pedestrians, but like the way it had been, and that had been considered at the time that the Friar Creek development went in. And I've talked to people on everyone on Malay Street is like, that would be our ideal solution to the traffic instead of, or in addition to speed bumps. We have a lot of high school students kind of bombing down the street, like at different times of the day. And but ideally, I think with an emergency vehicle only gate at the end of the street, which it's situated pretty easily to do that. I've talked to people on Friar Creek, and I've talked to people who have talked to their neighbors on Friar Creek that would also be affected. And for them, like for our street, it's like unanimous. This would be our dream come true. For them, there's some that were like, we're not sure, we would love that. And some think they want to have access both ways still. But I don't think they realize that it could be emergency vehicles would have access. So there would be a process maybe of talking with them or seeing how they feel about it. But either which way, we kind of have to deal with slowing down the traffic. What else? And then also just to consider the rural residential feeling of the street. Like every single person we talk to, there's this way that everybody's like familiar with each other, and they slow down, and they can walk their dogs, and we like need more places to walk dogs, and they can connect up with the bike trail that's along the creek. And there's also like a big open green space kind of around the corner of, it's the vernal pools, that there are these big beautiful fields. So, you know, we have fox, we have deer, we have owls, we have a lot of wildlife in the area, and a lot of older, large lots, and people who've lived there a really long time. So it's this very unique feeling. So, yeah. So a few of my neighbors are here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 10 minutes.
What's that?
We have 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Get out of here.
Oh, my gosh.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Rouse, R-O-U-S-E, and I live at 134 Malay Street, so right next door to TRE and Daniel. Happy First Farmers. First of all, everybody, I hope you all get to get out of here early and go and enjoy it. Thank you again for continuing to move forward with the speed bump discussion on Malay Street. We all really appreciate the effort. Since I was last here, there has been some additional conversation among neighbors about the possibility of adding a gate at the very end with access maintained for emergency vehicles. But that said, my main point right now is simply this. I hope any additional ideas that may be presented today during public comment doesn't slow down or complicate the progress already being made on the speed survey and the consideration of the speed bumps. Those efforts feel important and timely, given that we're almost at the end of the school year, and that does affect 9 months out of the year when you're surveying. And but again, I am very grateful for everything that you guys have been doing for us so far. I also understand from reading the agenda today and the progress that's already been made on the surveying that you all continue to run into you're having a difficult time finding a location to do the survey due to all of the growth on the street. So just wanted to let you know that, as I told Chief, I'm very happy to, groom the front yard a little bit if you guys need to put something there. And I know my dad has a little bit more space at his house across the street where he would be able to put something for you guys. So just let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Naomi Saunders, and I live at 216 Malay Street. And I'm actually the newcomer on the block. So, and one of the principal reasons that I moved to Malay Street, and to the town of Sonoma itself, is because I was living in Marin. And one of the huge motivations for leaving Marin was the traffic situation. And also, I'm very much aware that, we have new young children on the street, and I just think it would be safe and wonderful if they could grow up on the street not worrying about traffic, and it is a very rural street. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Leona Wood, and I'm another relative newcomer to Malay. I've only been there 4 years plus, and but I'm very familiar with the street. Long before I moved up here, my daughter lived here, and I walked with her and her children when they were little. And it was one of our favorite places to walk because it is semi-rural, it is slow, it is country still. And living there now, it's a wonderful place to live because everybody is very communicative and friendly. And adding that, one day, I'll just tell the story, a dog was out, and they thought it might be my dog that was a puppy, and I had 2 people call me and say, "Is your dog out?" So people really look after each other there. And it's kind of a feeling, I think it's going to be a more and more generational family area. I know that's my intent. I know other neighbors, and so it's got to be a good place for families and kids and animals. And at the very least, I know it's much more difficult to talk about closing the street off, but I found that wherever you are, that if there's speed bumps, I lived in a place like that, it slows you down a little bit. And again, with the high school near, there are people who haven't been driving a long time. I have a couple of grandchildren like that. And it's really good to help them remember that they're driving through a neighborhood. They're not on a freeway or even Broadway or whatever. But anyway, thank you. I just wanted to add my voice. I think my neighbors expressed the feelings of the people on the block pretty well. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Daniel. I live on Malay Street 144. And
Can I get your last name?
it's
Sorry.
Sinott, S-I-N-O-T-T-E.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the main thing I wanted to bring that maybe you wouldn't know is that this isn't just a regular neighborhood. It's not like a residential neighborhood. It's more of an environment where community happens. And it happens very accidentally because of the build of it. It's narrow, and so you walk out and you're close. You're close with people, and you find yourself talking with people. And when you're talking with someone, cars come and they see, oh, people are gathered on the street. Oh, we should slow down. It's that kind of neighborhood. And then as people drive by, I've noticed, I'm looking, I'm like, wow, I'm making eye contact with someone as they're driving by. This is a different kind of society that this context creates. And it's one that I'm very attracted to. And one of the laments of my life is that, wow, we have kind of concrete and separated ourselves in a way that I didn't know I missed until I moved to Malay Street 20 years ago. So I offer that because it's not something you would know if you hadn't been there and communed in that environment. And so the talk of putting speed bumps is like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But really what I would like to see is the end of the street closed off so that, the dog is sleeping in the street, and, the old people with the silver hair they're walking without so much, so that the attention returns to the slowness of life and the contact of life. So that's my comment, and if there is something that we need to do to facilitate closing it back off, and I'll just do as a quick ad, I have 1 minute. When they put in Friar Creek, the promise was, oh, of course, we're not going to use your street. This is not going to be an access for people driving through and getting out to Leveroni. And then a fire chief moved in as the places were becoming occupied, and the rule became changed. And it wasn't through great public comment. It was suddenly, oh no, we are opening up the street. And so I would like to see that wrong, that event corrected, and that it be returned to fire access only. And I don't actually think maybe fire access only, but like if a big truck needs to get over, there are different styles of fire barrier, street closures. And I've seen little humps in Berkeley that a big vehicle can drive over. So if a big truck drives over, or a kid in a 4x4, but any larger vehicle can get over them. And so it would allow everything we want. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, just seeing if there's any other, public comments for non-agenda items. It does not look like there are any, so we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the committee, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. So we have the consent calendar. Are there any questions from the committee? Is there any public comment regarding the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
All right, Committee Member Brennan,
Aye.
Committee Member Coster,
Aye.
Committee Member Domeno,
Aye.
Youth Member Mansfield,
Aye.
Committee Member Newman,
Aye.
Chair Lobsinger.
Aye.
Thank you, the motion passes unanimously.
Whoa, what got me excited too.
Uh-oh.
Woo, we passed it.
And, excuse me, Chair Lobsinger.
Yep.
I think it's a good time right now to just remind the public some of our procedures for when they want to move an item forward. Because some of the items that were discussed tonight, and any night for that matter, and it's always good just to throw this out sometimes to the public, that if you do have a concern like wanting to close a street like Malay, then that should be submitted as part of a traffic hazard reporting form. And that way you're locked in, Public Works knows, the police department knows, and we can move forward with any item like that in terms of bringing a new traffic item to the attention of the Traffic Safety Committee.
Yeah, I was kind of had the same thought where I know Malay is going to be a topic of conversation tonight, but there's some new ideas coming in. So Director Berger's correct that while it will be a topic that we're exploring and we're obviously we're going to be looking into it, these are some new things we hadn't considered. So it's always fair to resubmit a traffic hazard reporting form or, just that sort of thing. So the public comment works. That's great. But as ideas come in, if they come in beforehand, we'll have an opportunity to explore them and discuss them ahead of time. But we'll be getting there. That'll be we'll get there. Next, we need to receive the minutes from the last meeting.
We just did that on
Oh,
the
we did.
consent
Oh, sorry, the
calendar.
consent
It's okay.
calendar. Okay. Then let's go ahead and move on to the regular calendar. All right. All right. So the regular calendar is a review of the traffic hazard reporting forms, and then there will also be an update from the ad hoc committee. And I will turn it over to Public Works.
Thank you, Chair Lobsinger. So, the older traffic hazard reporting forms that are on this sheet, and this should look a little bit more familiar. As I had mentioned at the last couple Traffic Safety Committee meetings, we were kind of working through a backlog of those 21 traffic hazard reporting forms. So this has been consolidated. The ones that were recommended to be closed at the February Traffic Safety Committee meeting were closed. The ones that were recommended for additional review, pending closure, we checked in with PD. No additional complaints have been received on those, so those have been closed out as well. So the only ones that remain open on this sheet are ones that have been open on previous sheets that we have are still actively working on, and then ones that we have either made progress on and recommend closure for the traffic hazard reporting form, or we're still working through some things to get some additional data like the Malay Street speed survey, which I do think at this point we do have a path forward. We've talked with PD about possibly setting up a trailer to conduct speed surveys in order to get a decent access point to collect that data. So we just need to coordinate with PD and get that trailer out there and set up our speed surveys. But this sheet just goes over pretty much everything that we have still open, and then the second sheet are all the things that we have closed out. Most of them are still open, and then of course it does include the 3 traffic hazard reporting forms that were included on the consent calendar today as well, at the bottom. No, you're okay. So just to kind of familiarize with that, because it's been a few months since you guys have seen that, just kind of highlighting those changes. I also wanted to address that we met with the ad hoc and we discussed a bunch of surveys that we had conducted on West Spain Street from 2023 to current, which is going to be covered under a separate item tonight. And we also had a traffic engineering safety team meeting. These were in concurrent weeks. So we discussed the speed survey data that had been collected. We discussed a path forward on getting a survey done on Malay Street. We discussed the speed survey on Pickett Street, which we were able to conduct in response to a traffic hazard reporting form that we had received requesting some additional traffic calming measures. and we reviewed an older proposal to decrease speed limits to 20 miles an hour, which is also going to be a separate item today. So we have made some progress. We have a few here that are recommended for closure. The ones that are recommended for closure include the traffic hazard reporting forms at 5th Street West and West MacArthur. Speed surveys showed that the 85th percentile for both northbound and southbound directions were about 30 miles an hour, and the average speed was about 33 miles an hour. The speed limit is about 30 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour when you're leaving town, which is in the county. So when we talked about ad hoc and the test committee meeting, the general consensus was to close this out because the concern for speeding wasn't it wasn't showing on the speed surveys collected, and then we also looked at some data from the traffic engineer with his program, that's a good word for it, that analyzed traffic patterns. So those are two that have been closed out. The work at Emily Meadows Court on 5th Street West, all of the driveways there have been the curbs have been painted red. And so that can be closed out. That's the basis on which we also authorize the red paint for traffic hazard reporting form on the consent calendar for an apartment complex on 1st Street West. So those will be painted red as well. And what was that? No, I'm just reading, yeah. We still have the areas that are going to be left open for pending Caltrans's improvements. So we'll be working with them to get an idea on when those are going to be put in. And then the traffic hazard reporting form on Pickett Street, we are also recommending to close out. The 85th percentile speed range is about 16 to 18 miles an hour. Volume was about 226 to 285 vehicles on a time during the school week, because we did want to capture any kind of cut through traffic that would be there if students were using that area as a cut through. They did request chicanes and a couple other tier 3 traffic calming measures, just based on the data that we got from the speed survey. The conditions don't meet the requirements that we adopted in the neighborhood traffic calming toolbox to install those. So we are recommending that get closed out as well. And then as I saw in our consent calendar, we also had a path forward for a few of the traffic hazard reporting forms that we received. So the 1st Street West one, that's going to get painted red. And then we're going to do a speed survey on 2nd Street East, which was requested. And then we did get another traffic hazard reporting form on 5th Street West from Harrington Drive to West MacArthur. And that we had already done a speed survey there as part of a separate traffic hazard reporting form that had come in. So we recommended to close that out because that area had already been evaluated and addressed. And I believe that's all I have for this item.
Okay, so just because I know we're working on this new way of closing things out, do we need an official committee vote to close them out? Approval? Do we close them one at a time, or do we just say thank you and close them out? Or do we even have anything in place yet?
I don't think we have anything. I don't think we have a specific policy in place. So we can create one, or if you guys if you have reviewed and don't have any issues with the recommendations we have here, we can go through and close them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've read through all these, and I'm just completely on board with you. I don't want to go too far off of the agenda item by now exploring how exactly we close them out, but I would say.
I make a motion that we close out the items so recommended.
Yeah.
Second.
Great.
You need to ask for public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Regarding the closing out of these items that were just listed, is there any public comment regarding the closing out of these traffic reporting forms? I don't see any. Is there any discussion among the committee?
Not a word.
Okay.
Okay,
Greg,
so-
you're up.
So we had Greg make the motion.
Make a motion to
and who
close
second?
out per the recommendation of staff.
Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you. I wasn't ready for you guys.
We're moving quick.
Yeah. Okay. Committee member Brennan,
Aye.
committee member Coster,
Aye.
committee member Demeno,
Aye.
youth member Mansfield.
Aye.
Youth community,
You
committee
can call him
member
youth member.
Newman.
He'll-
Newman. Chair Lovesinger.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, oh my gosh. Now, I see there's a second part of this, this item is the ad hoc, update and report out. Are we moving on to that?
No, I just kind of ran through that at the same time with all
Okay,
the other
that's
things.
a-
We did meet. We came to a consensus on a couple things which have informed the agenda for tonight. So we're going to go over the 20-mile-an-hour proposal, and then we're also going to address the speed surveys done on Spain Street, and that was a large portion of what we discussed at our ad hoc. We are planning on convening another ad hoc before the August meeting. So we're going to keep this one around and continue to address some larger problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we can close out this item then,
Yes.
for now. Okay, well, let's move on to the second one. The upcoming traffic elements to be installed as part of the, forgive me, I'm forgetting the acronym, improvement project that.
Go Sonoma is what we.
Go Sonoma,
yeah.
thank you. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn it back over to Ashley.
Thank you. So the Go Sonoma project, or CIPT6, its formal name is Citywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvement Project. The reason we call it Go Sonoma is because it's funded by the Go Sonoma Competitive Tax Measure. As a competitive project, that's the funding is administered through the Sonoma County Climate and Transit Authority. So that is where our construction funding is coming from. This is part of our capital improvement program. And there's a couple different elements as part of this project. We've discussed this project with this committee a couple times. This also came up last meeting where we discussed all the improvements that were going to be happening on 5th Street West, because there's a few of these improvements that are tied to this project here. But what we haven't done yet is discuss new traffic calming features that are going to be installed. These features are both in the adopted neighborhood traffic calming toolbox, but we don't necessarily have, this is going to be like the initial installation for both the raised crosswalk, which is essentially going to function like a large speed bump, and that's going to be at the crossing of the Junipero-Serra bike path crossing, and then also the traffic circle at 3rd Street West and Perkins Street. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to highlight these elements separately. The project in total is really aimed at helping improve the bike pedestrian network. And so all of the projects that were presented and are funded are part of the city's active transportation plan or comprehensive transportation plan. They're all aimed at improving the bike pedestrian experience. And so that's why a lot of them are focused on or around bike paths. So we have a lot of bike path crossings that we're enhancing, ADA upgrades, basically just improving the ramps there, adding our rectangular rapid flashing beacons at some. The raised crosswalk is a unique feature in the bike path crossing, and then it also includes the bike boulevard that is going to connect the Friar Creek bike path all the way up to the Sonoma bike path that was presented at a special traffic safety committee meeting. And so an element of that, we included traffic calming elements on the bike boulevard in order to make the shared facility, to make bicyclists and more comfortable on a shared facility, because the bike boulevard by nature is a shared facility. We didn't want to take away any kind of parking. And so adding traffic calming features will go a long way towards helping slowing down the traffic that's already there, of which there's not. The traffic circle is appropriate in areas where the average daily traffic is about 5,000 vehicles. And so 3rd Street West is an ideal location because it doesn't see a really high volume of cars like West Main Street does. And as part of this initial installation, we are going to be putting in a temporary traffic circle so that residents and of both the area and of the valley, people who are utilizing this area to go to doctor's appointments or run to CVS or go to the pharmacy there, are going to have an idea about how this intersection works. And so by the time the actual physical installation goes in, it will not be the first time that they have seen this. And so realistically, what we're looking from you is just provide feedback on our new traffic calming elements that we're installing as part of our capital improvement project.
Well, I don't necessarily have any input. They both sound good to me, and as someone who walks around this town every day, I'm especially on 3rd Street. I'm just curious to see how it pans out, and I really like the raised crosswalk. So that's my only comment. I'm looking forward to seeing it, how everything turns out.
We are also planning on getting feedback from the public as well on the initial demonstration traffic calming circle, which just to highlight, the demonstration circle is also part of the neighborhood traffic calming toolbox. So we're trying to keep using everything in our toolbox.
Ashley, when's that gonna be put in?
The demonstration circle.
Yes.
The demonstration circle in about 30 days or so. We are working with the design engineer, GHD, on what that could look like. And so once we are on the same page about what materials we're going to need to use, we'll order those and then staff will install them.
Cool.
That was my question, is how, I like the idea, it's like, hey, we're gonna do this, look, see what it looks like, see what it feels like on the road. That makes it great. I think that's a good idea. How much of what we're installing on the first round gets carried over to the second, or is it kind of a redo, start all over?
It's going to be a redo, and the features that we put out for the initial installation, that'll be temporary. It'll have a temporary flare,
Okay.
whereas the permanent structure will have, it'll look more permanent. And one of the reasons we're putting that out is to have the fire department. They've already approved the concept, but they're going to want to do a dry run around the interim, the temporary, and we'll get any feedback from them. Also, police department, neighbors, people that are just traveling through. We'll have a area on the website that'll be it'll solicit feedback, and probably we'll have something there to basically take people's feedback to make it real easy for the public to input.
That's great. I have a question. Just out of curiosity, it's temporary. Can it be used somewhere else? And how much does it cost about?
Yeah, we were looking at 5 or 6 different options today with the designers. We're going to keep the costs down. It could involve a couple of signs that could be reused for the permanent installation, a couple of sign stands, and we were thinking about putting rubber curbs in out there, which will be semi-inexpensive, and also channelizers, so the cars can see it real easily.
So with my concern is that some of the neighborhood in particular go, it's terrible, it looks terrible, it feels terrible, it's terrible for the first shot at it. But I'm a big fan, as you're aware, of traffic calming and traffic circles. I would be, what's typically been in other cities, the reaction to a temporary that gets carried over to a fixed traffic circle? Do they run into a lot of arguments about it, or?
Well, and one of the things that we'll do, thinking about that's a great comment, and something that I'm going to encourage GHD, our designers, to do is have what the permanent is going to look like right next to where you put your comment in. Yeah, so that would give people the opportunity to see what it's going to look like in the long term, and that this is only an interim condition.
Hey, Mike, quick question. How long do you plan on keeping it in place?
I would say 1 to 2 months.
Okay.
Some of that's going to depend on our schedule to finish design, so we haven't quite nailed that down yet, but we will flesh that out with the design engineer. We want to give people enough time to really experience it and be able to get really orient people with this new feature. At the same time, we also don't want to delay the design on this project.
Yeah, and while this is a first in the city of Sonoma, it's not the first in Sonoma County. Yeah, Petaluma's got them. I believe Santa Rosa's got them, and there's more in Marin County. Yeah, and Roanoke Park. So basically, first for Sonoma, not for Sonoma County.
Are they adaptable to size?
Can you use your mic? Sorry.
Are they adaptable for size for the intersection itself?
All that's taken into consideration. The size of the intersection, and I mean, the geometry of the intersection, if the intersection is too small, it's not eligible.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's good.
I mean, the fire department, Mike, has to approve all of these. They have to be involved. Everyone.
Yeah, from a turning standpoint.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So the small street couldn't have one. 'Cause,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, anything else from the committee on this? I'll turn it over to public comment regarding these two items, the raised crosswalk and the traffic circle, the raised crosswalk on Junipero Serra or the traffic circle on 3rd Street. Any public comment regarding these two items? Seeing none, again, I'll throw it back to the committee. Anybody have anything? All right, I think we can close this item out and move on to the next. Providing feedback about proposed 20-mile-per-hour speed limits in streets.
Thank you, Chair Lobsinger. So as I mentioned, this topic came up at the traffic engineering safety team meeting and ad hoc meeting that staff hosted in between traffic safety committee meetings. In November of 2025, SCTCA adopted a guidebook for reducing posted speed limits in accordance with AB 43. And it's something that we have presented to traffic safety before in August of 2024, so it's been a minute. This legislation is obviously new and kind of changes things a little bit about what we can and can't do. And our traffic engineer has prepared quite a few wonderful exhibits of all the different ways that we can lower speed limits 20 miles an hour in different neighborhoods, basically spanning from 5th Street West down to the plaza here. And that is what the attachments are. Actually, we'll go through this one first. So actually, these are all the different categories for that are eligible for 20 mile an hour decrease. So this is part of what the standard that the traffic engineer, Frank, here, utilized in order to create some of these exhibits. So this is just a general overview of the different areas where 20 mile an hour speed limit was considered at the traffic engineering safety team and ad hoc. And then the next few pages of this exhibit, Frank explains down at the bottom left what strategy would be used in order to meet that. So the areas here, it would have to be, this is a business activity district. In these areas, that would be the 20 mile an hour. That would require the city to establish a business activity district. And then Frank, I think this one is one where it would fit business activity district if we added a crosswalk.
Yeah, so the business activity district corresponds to meeting 3 of 4 requirements. And those are located on a table at the end of the pretty graphics there. Yeah, so this is a continuation of what we'll say, kind of an immediate in the sense that this does not require a survey of the roadway speeds in order to justify the reduction. These reductions are justified on the fact that they are a business activity center or district. And that's not as the city has chartered or in the general plan or anything like that. This district is really just roadways that meet a particular requirement and are justified under the California Vehicle Code for that, we'll say, immediate reduction. In the sense of we don't have to go out and survey traffic, we're able to make those changes. And so one of the 4 items that we have to meet 3 of is the presence of a unmarked crosswalk. So and to the best of your knowledge here, and probably presented this before, crosswalks exist at intersections regardless if they're marked or unmarked. In these cases here, some of these roadways have intervening roadways, and therefore there are some crosswalks that could be marked in these locations that would justify a business activity district, making that roadway or that roadway segment eligible for a 20-mile-an-hour reduction. It just important to note that all of the things that we're going to, and Ashley, it's okay, we'll continue through this. I know you asked me about this one in particular. You want me to take it? Is all of these elements build together to fill out 20-mile-an-hour speed limits within that area that's on that first slide, right there. Thank you. And so what we're trying to do is build upon the elements in AB 43 that are about Vision Zero, about making roadways safer for all users. And so the first step is something that doesn't require really much work on our part, but builds upon it, each of the elements. So the first, obviously, this is the area in which we talked about at the ad hoc. Next slide. Those red streets are the streets that immediately meet 3 of 4 of the requirements. The orange is the state highway. That is a posted 25-mile-an-hour limit. I'm just calling attention to that because it is a roadway that we do not have control of reducing that speed limit. The next slide. Then these 4 segments here, again, building blocks. If there were unmarked crosswalks on any of these 4, we could then make them eligible for 3 of the 4 categories or criteria that makes them an immediate 20-mile-an-hour. The next slide. These purple kind of build out the rest of that initial area that we discussed at the ad hoc. And all of these require, and they're noted as 25, and they're just noted as 25 because now what we need to do is actual roadway surveys, speed surveys of these locations. But what's unique about all of these is they kind of fit into a category that allows us to do possible reductions of speed limits once we do a survey based upon the predominance of bicycle, pedestrian, or senior activity. And so you'll see it goes by the community center, it goes by each of the elementary schools, and again is consistent with that commercial area where we would expect pedestrians to be moving between the different land uses in those areas. My initial findings are that these probably would, not only they're eligible, but they'd likely meet the requirements once we do the survey. I think there's one more slide. Okay, and this is a completely separate. So posted speed limits, whether, or actually per the California Vehicle Code, justified something that's either not a 25 or not a 55-mile-an-hour roadway. Those are prima facie speed limits, and they exist without the posting of a limit. These roadways on this slide here are actually those that are not posted with a regulatory sign, but they're actual, well, with a regulatory sign, but with an additional sign. They're part of a school zone. So these roadways you're seeing here are probably a little difficult to see at this scale, but you'll see the squiggly line in front of Sasserini, in front of Prescott, and then over by St. Francis. Thank you. The 2 primary schools, Sasserini and Prescott, the 15-mile-an-hour limit is something that would be justified. And the nuance here is that traditionally, speed limits in front of the schools were 25 miles an hour, right? All very common to see those signs. Well, if the roadway is posted as 25, it's difficult. You can't post for a 25 to be a school zone. So in these cases here, we're actually able to take an additional reduction in those school zones while children are present. So those roadways largely remain either 20, 25 mile an hour, depending on those things that we did before. And then these are an additional, while children are present, that they would be reduced to 15. In the case of St. Francis, we thought that the 20 was more consistent, just given the proximity of that school, a lot of drivers going in and out of that as opposed to moving through. So justification as a public school versus a non-public school, that really didn't play. It was just the fact that it's in that area with those existing 20 miles an hour. And once it meets those requirements, this could be recommended as a 15 if we're able to get that portion of roadway to 20, given those other options. The next couple slides there are really just for information. Those roadways that are colored, either in pink, green, or purple, are roadways that are otherwise required to have an engineering survey, because these are part of your federal aid network within the city. These are roadways that are eligible for federal funding, and therefore the state requires that these roadways not have just a prima facie, that 25 mile an hour limit, but they actually be justified by a survey. So just bringing those to your attention, there's a number of roadways there that do require justifying those speed limits that we are present on them. The next slide is then an overlay with the city's general plan, the arterial and collector, and then local roads, which are anything that's really just not colored. You'll see Highway 12 there is noted as both a principal arterial for the California road system as well as an arterial for the city. This is just bringing context to the fact that those roadways, while they're colored for the CRS, they're actually colored as well for the fact that they're primary roadways, collector or arterial for the city of Sonoma. And then the next slide is noting those posted limits on all of the city streets where they are posted, as well as the existing school zone that exists on State Route on Broadway, essentially in front of the high school. So there is a 25 mile an hour posted school zone on Broadway. So just a bit of context to bring everything together. When the surveys are done, we'll obviously look for more opportunities to, reduce speeds, collectively across the system. But that primary area is what we brought to the ad hoc committee to kind of focus the efforts and try and get those reductions that are really most compliant with AB 43. I think, that's just the table. And you'll see across there, the first set of requirements is that roadways, again, that is so small, I'll just read it off of my copy here. Apologies while I get to that page. I keep spinning up. The first requirement is that it needs to meet, has a minimum of 4 traffic lanes. Broadway is really the only thing that has even a marginal 4 travel lanes, and that has a maximum posted 25 mile an hour in the immediately adjacent roadways. This table here is in reference to the 20 mile an hour for the business district. That's what this table is specifically catered to. And in all cases, most of the roadways have 25 adjacent. All of them have jet 25 adjacent to them. The next 4 columns are the criteria that you need to meet at least 3. And so this goes back to that first and second slide. While the zoning of those areas looks to be highly commercial, there is a requirement that no less than 50% of the contiguous property fronting the highway or roadway consists of retail or dining commercial uses, including outdoor dining that open directly onto the sidewalk. So commercial zoning is only kind of a reference, but it actually has to have those retail or dining uses on the roadway for at least 50%. So we make reference to whether or not that meets the 50% from a zoning perspective, or that stricter requirement of actual retail and dining. The second requirement is that there's parking along the roadway. There is parking along all of your roadways. And then whether or not there's traffic control signals or stop controls within 600 feet. Luckily for the city of Sonoma, most, if not all of your roadway block lengths have a maximum of the 600 feet in those segments in which we looked at. And then the last is the marked crosswalks or non-marked crosswalks. And so there's a number of those segments that already have kind of a mid-block unmarked crosswalk, or marked crosswalk, I'm sorry. And then those are the 4 you'll see that are in purple that indicate where crosswalks could make that third requirement, meet that requirement for the 20 mile an hour. So hopefully that wasn't too complicated. When I do it, I know it feels a lot more complicated than it needs to be, but once it's posted, you're happy and it's out there, so.
So I need clarification. I think I understand what a marked crosswalk is. That's when we got stripes down. So an unmarked crosswalk is just that part of a street where coming across from Cafe Boulangerie and people are going to the park and they just walk across and there's no crosswalk there?
An unmarked crosswalk by the California Vehicle Code is the prolongation of sidewalk across an intersection, is essentially what that is. At any intersection, there's crosswalks on both sides. There is, altruistically, a unmarked crosswalk.
Whether there's stripes?
Whether it's marked or not.
I got you. Okay.
And that comes into assigning right-of-way. So for most of our business, just walking across the street, people walk between controlled intersections. That's called jaywalking. But you know, there's all these little things and nuances. What the rules in the CVC really come down to is assigning right-of-way if something actually occurs. And so the unmarked versus marked crosswalks, that's actually one of the things that's very deliberately stated in the vehicle code.
And I think this is putting the cart way ahead of the horse. As I look at East Napa Street, I know that the jurisdiction changes from county to city as it comes in. And outside, it's 35/30 and then 25. I know there's requirements for that need to be met relative to the speed. Is there any way of trying to work with the county to get them to change from 8th Street in and just make that 25 so then it's consistent?
So when we had worked on the East Napa Street project, we did a number of surveys, and where the county has their speed limits, those are set by prevailing speeds. So to some extent, the speed limits, as we've observed, are set to prevailing speeds.
Can you just give us some more clarity on the nature of the surveys that you spoke of, what's involved and how long they might take?
Yeah, so a survey in general is really just an observation of a statistically significant number of vehicles upon a roadway. You'll see for much of the work we do when we're kind of making our observations, rather than having city staff present on a roadway with a radar gun looking at vehicles, often what we do is we use a very inconspicuous a radar device that's mounted to a streetlight. That's actively logging speeds along a roadway. We don't need nearly that much data for what is statistically significant for the purposes of writing an engineering traffic survey. Those are the words that the California Vehicle Code puts in place, and this really comes down to what is a justifiable prevailing speed for a roadway such that it does not constitute a speed trap and is justified for writing of enforcement tickets by radar itself. So it's this kind of long process of, we don't need to take multiple days of data. This can really be somewhere statistically is between 50 and 100 vehicles, both directions, free flow speeds outside of peak hours, where cars would be allowed to drive at a speed that the driver feels is comfortable for the roadway. If we collect every car all day for 2-3 days, gives us some great data. The margin in that is potentially 1-2 miles an hour, And in many cases, that could be pretty critical. And so what we do is we really try and get that prevailing speed by looking at the roadway, getting just a set number of vehicles statistically significant of those vehicles. We don't count every car. Well, if 3 cars are traveling together, we get the front car because they're the pace car setting the speed for the rest of the cars. We'll let them pass and we'll get another car coming up. And if they're just going, you know, non-peak, non-congested periods, they're just driving through. That's what we collect.
Sounds like it could happen fairly quickly.
They could.
Like Highway 12, is there any involvement with Caltrans because they're state highways on the surveying?
So state of California does have so the vehicle code does have a process for approaching Caltrans. Caltrans has a very specific way in which they have to do roadway surveys because they're the state and it's a highway. Even though it's a local road for us, it is a highway, and therefore the city can recommend or request that they review their speeds. Caltrans has also kind of come up with the process that AB 43 really doesn't apply to their state facilities. It's really intended for local roads. And so I've had multiple conversations with the state Department of Transportation, and they feel that their process is
So they'll give us funding without question.
the city, the committee. I mean, we could, you know, invite the Caltrans to review it, but it's often fruitless. And 25 miles an hour for the corridor through City of Sonoma is, again, appropriate. It's prevailing speed. Would a 20 be more appropriate if it were your main street? You could probably come up with that justification for a large portion of Broadway, given the commercial uses on it, but it is a state highway.
Well, in all fairness, since you're talking about speed, and I was part of the ad hoc, and I brought it up, and I just want to bring it up now, that, you know, in San Francisco, they have 20 mile an hour, like, with cameras, and they'll send you a ticket. Was it 25, 30 different locations, and they want to put more in. Come right out of the Broadway tunnel from Polk Street, going towards Broadway. You're on Broadway, and all of a sudden you come out of that tunnel, you're on camera, or hitting 20 miles an hour. But the governor has come out and said there's 11 mile an hour leeway before law enforcement will even cite you. It's crazy. It's like he's allowing people to go 11 miles an hour over. So, I mean, it's going to be a matter of time before somebody gets wind of that and brings it up to a court here when law enforcement cites for a 20 and they're going 35. I mean, I have to say it.
Yeah, and so just for, you know, because you brought up the cameras, it's important to note that there was a California law, the SB AB, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it authorized within the state of California 5 jurisdictions to test. So what's happening in San Francisco right now with their speed enforcement cameras is, well, ultimately, or if not, is already occurring in Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, on non-freeway, non-Caltrans routes, as well as in Southern California, a number of jurisdictions, Los Angeles, I think it's Anaheim or Long Beach is the other, making up the 5. But this is considered a test. These are 5 agencies allowed to do this, and this will be fall under a lot of review, maybe some scrutiny, but seeing if this is enforcement is an adequate approach. The state has gone through a lot of automated enforcement over the years, and this is an opportunity. Many countries around the world actually do automated enforcement. I would mention Australia, which I have the opportunity to visit recently, has a zero tolerance for speed limits because radar video enforcement is heavily prevalent. It's everywhere. You don't know where it is. Even officers who sight from the side of the road don't chase. They sight, their radar gun has a camera, it takes the picture, and so mobile enforcement, it's incredible. Zero tolerance to the speed in many countries. So, sorry for that digression.
I just want to comment. This is, you know, you've done an incredible job and been very creative. And, yeah, anything you can do to bring the speed down. This one that's up right now, I mean, you've got the area where you could just do it right away. I mean, you could put the signs up right now, is that correct?
That's correct, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other areas, like, I guess, I'm colorblind, really bad, so everything looks the same. I mean, I swear to God, I'm like, I can't see it. What street is it?
Committee Member Domeno, I just wanted to clarify, putting the signs out right away, I don't believe the city currently has a business activity district, so we would have to create that. That would be a council item. Council would have to approve that. So I just wanted to clarify, one of the things that we're looking at today is getting committee's feedback to see if this is something that they're interested in pursuing, so that staff has some direction to work with upper management and, the city council on possibly taking steps towards making this happen. Because the first step here is the business activity district, so it would be forming that. So this isn't gonna happen until that happens, right? This would be after the business activity forms, we would have to install crosswalks. And then, and I believe that would also have to be included in the business activity district, right, Frank?
So, and to your point, I apologize, at the speed of city, immediate to me means a lot of different things, but
okay.
I did not want to, and thank you, Ashley, for pointing that out. This is not a put up tomorrow.
Okay.
All speeds that we talked about this evening will need to go to the city council, even these that are not requiring a survey, but can be done on the basis of meeting criteria, all require either a resolution or an ordinance. An ordinance requires 2 city council meetings, a resolution only 1. And so I think I have that in the right direction. Okay, thank you for everybody nodding. So this is a process, but what I would also recommend is collaboratively, because we want to have one community impact of the signage and of the improvement, or I say improvements, but of the speed reductions. And so there's also an educational process and enforcement. There's a whole lot of it, that it all be done collectively. That we have this whole area that we're looking at here, and we'll take any opportunities we can get to get slower speeds when more surveys are done. But in this area, which was addressed by the ad hoc, this would all collectively be put together in one ordinance to be brought to the city council to then be approved. Okay. It's really, as Ashley mentioned, this was just your concurrence with the approach that I just outlined.
Yeah, my final comment was just gonna be, wherever you can make it 20 miles an hour, do it. But when you take it to the next level, now you said you have to go to the city council. How are they on this? Are they as open as we are? Is there some resistance there in the city council on some of these? Just curious. Or
TBD.
to be announced, okay.
And so,
Okay.
I know one thing that council is, supports is safer streets,
Yeah.
safe pedestrians, and safe bicyclists. And it's always a balance. And just to reemphasize too, we brought this to the ad hoc. What we put together with the ad hoc was what we felt areas that could be considered. And so I think one of the main responsibilities tonight that we could undertake is, would we consider other areas? Did we make an oversight when we were working with the ad hoc? Is there streets that could be added to what we put in? Because what we're trying to get, shout out to SCTCA. Because SCTCA had a class. Ashley and I either took the class or reviewed the material of the class. And we've discussed that with Frank. We've discussed it with the ad hoc. We've discussed it with the test committee. And we think what we're trying to do is queue this up, take it into the full traffic safety committee meeting, and get some feedback from you on, number one, do you support it? Number two, do you think we're comprehensive enough? Number three, maybe there's a street in there that you disagree with. And get some feedback from the committee to try to understand how we're going to take our next steps moving through this process. As you guys have heard, we've got our expert back here. He's really keyed in to how to move this forward. It's going to be a process. He even cited some of the requirements that we're going to have on our local level. in addition to all the traffic engineering requirements. So it's not something that we're just gonna make happen, but we've, discussed it with the interim city manager today. And she supports this with a few asterisks that we've got the support from the appropriate groups, the police department, the fire department, the traffic engineer, the traffic safety committee, etc. And right now we haven't heard a whole lot of negative response to this. It's great that SETCA had a little mini class on how other agencies in the county are pursuing this right now. And Sonoma's not the only one. There's 2 or 3 other agencies, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Roanoke Park, that are incorporating things like this into their traffic safety work. And so following along with those others and seeing if we can do this for the city of Sonoma too. Because one of the things that we have in common with most of the traffic hazard reporting forms that we receive, the cars are going too fast. And how do we slow them down? Well, speed bumps is one thing. We struggled through the traffic tables out at 5th East and Napa Street, and that was the process. And so this is something else for us to consider. And with AB 43, it's one of the tools in our toolbox.
So I don't know if this is outside of our purview, but is it fair, can we recommend as a committee to the city council that they establish a business improvement district? Because I know, like Ashley said, we've been talking about this for years now, and if that's the first step, or does it need to be more focused? Do we need to say, first of all, can we even recommend a business activity district? The second one is, let's just say, for argument's sake right now, that we adopt what the ad hoc says and I'll say, yep, this looks great, done. Do they need to be combined together to send to the city, or can we say, hey, city, establish this, and then we'll iron this out? Because it will, like everybody said, it is a process, but is it within our purview for the traffic safety committee to recommend a business improvement district?
I think for the purposes of this particular item right now, this is really the first time that you guys have seen this since 2024. Some things have changed. This has expanded a little bit. And so for right now, we're just looking to see if you would support it. In terms of next steps, that would definitely be something we'd need to vet, with our interim city manager, figure out what else. We don't have next steps lined out for you at this time. But that if that is something, this is something that you support and want to see happen, that's definitely something we can work on between now and the next traffic safety committee meeting.
Yeah, and I would say that, just based on what I'm hearing right now, I before we jump ahead to any type of vote or motion, that I think this committee will wind up supporting it. So my question would be to anybody, what would be the pushback against it? Who's coming in saying, no, keep speed limits up to 25, raise them to 30? Or is there any? If not, then that's great.
I think originally it might have been a timing thing, and it might have lost a little bit of wind because of the timing and other things that were happening at the same time. Now, we have discussed this with PD and fire, and they support it, and the ad hoc supported it, and everybody at the test supported it. So it's really going to be, doing our homework, coming up with what we think the right strategy is, and then working with the city manager to get some feedback.
No, I think it's brilliant, and I think no reason why we shouldn't recommend putting it to the city council.
And I'll just throw out, the other thing we talked about in the ad hoc was, and again, I don't know if I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse, but is to see increased enforcement over time as well. Just simply because that's certainly more mobile than tables, and even if they're just making a stop to check somebody a little bit. And I think a lot of these areas, just anecdotally from my perspective, it's hard to see people complain about them because in many cases, they're already going
Yeah.
pretty slow, right? Whether it's at the community center, you know, whether it's down on West Napa Street, you know, I can certainly see support for it by the neighborhood on West Spain, in particular. And, you know, in some of the area, Fifth Street West, you know, these are all areas that people have talked to us about being problems, like you said, Director Byrd. You know, everybody goes too fast. It's a common problem. How do we do it? Well, let's just try and put a governor on it to start with.
Mike, can I ask, is it a money issue? I mean, to switch the signs over from 25 to 20? I couldn't imagine
No.
it would be. Okay.
There are some budgetary considerations for engineering, traffic, and speed. But the city does budget, you know, a certain amount of funding annually for traffic engineering. So just to clarify, there is some financial impact with this, but not to the point where it's not doable. And then another thing I did want to clarify is we're talking about, you know, motions and next steps and stuff like that. It would be helpful to consider this as more of a discussion direction item. This is really the first time you guys are looking at this, and it's fully fleshed out form after the ad hoc test, and the traffic engineer has provided these wonderful exhibits and kind of created a possible path forward for how all of this is going to get done. However, I think at this point, we're really just looking for, we don't really even need a motion to move forward today, but what we would like to hear from traffic safety is whether or not you agree with the exhibit that we have here about the areas that were considered for the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, if you have any additional street segments that you think were missed, and, you know, in terms of providing direction to staff, you know, that would, if you guys are in agreement, move forward with the project. Because at this point, we still do have to, you're our first stop on this project. So.
Well, with that, and the committee's discussed this, and we'll have more opportunity to discuss this. So I think right now, I'd like to turn it over to public comment. So if anybody from the public has feedback on the 20-mile-an-hour business improvement district, now would be the time to discuss it.
Oh, I do, for sure.
Oh, there we go. Got to take her.
Just giving everybody a heads up. Hey, I'm Christine McMillan, and I live on 5th Street West. And I think my question, maybe to the team here, is if we don't do 20 miles per hour throughout our little town, then Waze is going to figure out the fastest street, which is my street, and everyone will just be going down that street. So I think an overall approach to the town is smarter than this street, that street, and the other. Like, I get around the schools and getting down to 15, and that totally makes sense. But the idea that people only walk in downtown, how do they get there from their houses? They walk, right? So it's really the whole town. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Okay.
Just a clarification, I live here on First Street West. Is this item
Could you
up-
please state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim Bohar, B-O-H-A-R, live at 299 First Street West.
Thank you.
I'm unclear on the agenda. Was there a separate agenda item for First Street West, or is that in this major discussion here about traffic? Was there a separate agenda item?
For
For
First Street West, for right here?
Yes. Or is it in this large group of things that are being evaluated now?
We did have an agenda item on the consent calendar for First Street West where there was a request for red curbs. But separate from that, this is part of a larger item, so
Okay,
not one
so
particular
if I'm a
thing.
neighbor here concerned about First Street West, I should be talking about my concerns, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, I need to get some notes. First, briefly, there are about 40 residences on my street here. We're all neighbors. And I want to express our appreciation to the Public Works Director, Mike Berger, for keeping us informed over the years about things that affect our neighborhood. And this is one of them. That's why I'm here tonight. Thank you, Mike. We're very concerned about a variety of situations, which I'll try to briefly describe, but we're very much in favor of lowering the speed limit to 20. Going down the street from north to south, Mission Highlands, as you know, this is the exit entry point to Mission Highlands up in the county hills. I don't know how many homes there, but there's a great deal of traffic going back and forth. People going to work. There's dozens every day of pickup trucks going back and forth quite quickly. Gardeners, repairmen, things of that nature. They are easily exceeding the 25-mile-an-hour limit with a large number of Mission Highlands traffic. The Vets Hall bar and the Vets Hall sends out quite a few fast, powerful cars and quite a few motorcycles up and down the street. The ball field parking over here and the ball field park across the street also unload and load quickly for a lot of cars. The semi-pro ball field down there has a blind turn to the left. All the shrubbery blocks it. A lot of traffic coming in and out of there. The real important issue as far as safety is the crosswalk. The city trail and the crosswalk, which adjoins the Depot Park Museum and the ballpark. That's heavily trafficked by bicycles, elderly people, and walkers. There are infants and strollers. It's very, very busy, and it's often abused by cars going by. It really needs not only traffic adjustment, but enforcement up and down the street. Many of the people are exceeding 25 miles an hour pretty dramatically. A good portion of them do. So I think it's the neighbor's opinion that not only do we need regulation and speed limits, we need enforcement. This speeding has been going, we've been here for 30 years now, and speeding's been going on for a long time, substantially. And so some kind of feasible and reasonable enforcement is what we really need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comments regarding this agenda item, the 20 miles per hour speed limit streets? Not seeing any, I'll kick it back to the committee. I'll just start by saying Ashley mentioned we don't need a formal vote or any type of motion, but I think it's fair to say that at least for these purposes, unless someone says no, this committee supports all of this, that what the ad hoc did and the work that Frank and Mike and everybody else have done. So I'm comfortable in saying that we support across the board lowering the speed limits, and then we can get into the nuance and the detail at another time. But right now it looks like there's public support to slow cars down all over the town, but noting that Waze is, I don't use Waze, but but yeah, so that's definitely something to consider. Does anyone else from the committee have anything? All right. Is there anything else that you would need from us? Obviously not a formal vote or anything. Okay.
No, just an indication of support for these areas.
Big thumbs up across the board.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right. With that, we can close out that item and we'll move on to item 4.4, which is the review of speed surveys conducted pre-project and post-project. I'll turn it back over to Ashley.
Thank you, Chair Lobsinger. So this is one of the items that came up at the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc was designed to really analyze issues with different corridors and corridor traffic. So West Main Street has been on our radar for a while, and we've conducted a number of speed surveys and done a number of improvements on West Main Street, such as the installation of the rectangular rapid flashing beacon system at 3rd Street West and West Main. We also just completed the West Main Street rehabilitation project, which was a grind and overlay with some isolated digouts. The grind and overlay was isolated to Second Street West and Third Street West on West Main Street. And then we also, as part of that, did a huge striping change order that introduced fog line striping to narrow the roadway, which is one of our traffic calming devices, as well as the painted bulb outs on 4th Street West, 3rd Street West, and 2nd Street West, which are also designed to be traffic calming features. And part of this is to also help make West Main Street a bike boulevard. So, you know, bike boulevards, as we discussed before, as part of the 3rd Street West Bike Boulevard, they're more successful with traffic calming features. And that is a active transportation tier 1 project. So we incorporated those elements into the construction project that was completed in December of last year. And then we also have finally received the speed radar feedback sign that staff is planning on installing as soon as they have some availability. So hopefully in the next few weeks. So those are the different things that we have done. The next page here is a list of all the speed surveys that staff has conducted on West Main Street from 2023 to 2026. So there's a number of speed surveys, and the notes here tell you what day of the week, because that is important, and it also notes whether or not it's pre and post implementation for the different measures that we have put in on West Main Street to kind of calm traffic a little bit. So what you're seeing here is speeds holding steady at an average of 31 miles per hour. Pre and post intervention, if that's a good mitigation, but that's a good word for it. So the notes here kind of have a lot of really good detail about you know, the time of the week, because we've heard feedback that the time of the week is really important to capture you know, weekday traffic commute as well as weekend traffic for people visiting the square and whatnot, and then also pre and post project. So we just finished our last speed survey on in February of 2026. We didn't quite meet the cutoff for the February Traffic Safety Committee meeting, so this was a topic of discussion for the ad hoc and the Traffic Engineering Safety Team meeting as well. So both of those bodies have reviewed all of this data. One of the sections that we did discuss in our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit map, that the agenda item we just discussed, did encompass Spain Street. So one of the things that we looked at when we looked at all this traffic data that we received, one of the key things we paid attention to was volume. So that's covered here as well, the number of cars that these surveys see over a period of time. And so one of the things we're focusing on is, you know, at this point we've done a lot of the traffic calming that we can do to accommodate the volume of cars that Spain Street sees, with the painted bulb outs, the RFBs, and then we're also going to be installing the speed radar sign. And so those are all elements that accommodate larger volumes of traffic. The larger traffic calming elements, such as chicanes, speed bumps, etc., unfortunately are not are more suited for lower average daily traffic than what Spain Street sees, which is, you know, about 10,000, 15,000 average daily traffic number, which is number of cars the roadway sees per day. This is also addressed in the city's general plan, and then also the general plan update. So at this point, you know, we're just kind of wanted to present our findings to Traffic Safety Committee. This is a segment that's being evaluated for the 20-mile-an-hour speed change reduction. Thank you. And so we just wanted to highlight this and bring it to Traffic Safety Committee agenda or attention to see if you guys had any feedback for us on this. Because at this point, we're looking at incorporating this stretch of Spain Street on the 20-mile-an-hour reduction.
Excuse me. This just occurred to me today. I was picking up my girls from school, and I came out on Spain Street. While Spain Street is a lot better, and I mean, it looks great, this question came up about a year ago. I can't remember who asked it, but the question of continuing the sidewalk from, I'm going to basically say Vallejo's home on the north side, all the way to General's daughter. And I think for two reasons, and I know there's a reason behind it, but when I was coming out on 4th Street, I saw a person coming, obviously walking to St. Francis to pick up their kid, and the bushes were really grown over, and coming from the north side, really hard to see, and I was watching this whole thing. The second one is, if you see kind of a country type road, I feel like somewhere you just kind of feel like you can increase the speed. If you see sidewalks somewhere, I would like to believe somewhere it tells you to slow down a little bit. So why couldn't we put a sidewalk that connects basically Vallejo's home to General's daughter on Spain?
We'll have to, I'm not sure on this, so this is just right off the top of my head. We'll have to do a little bit additional digging on this, but I think there were some right-of-way issues because that whole big field is state parks. That location, though, is where we have pinpointed to install the speed radar sign. So that is, there's only one going in that direction. We worked with Frank on a good location for the speed radar sign that would catch people where they're going the fastest. That's where you want the speed radar sign. And so that is where that is the location for, in that general area, for the speed radar sign. So that should hopefully be going in the next few weeks, and we're hopeful that that will make an impact on speeds. But I do believe there's some right-of-way concern there with state parks, if I'm not mistaken. That's just off the top. I can definitely vet that and get you a more fleshed out answer.
Yeah, I thought it was the same thing, that it's state property. If there's an answer, great, but I just assumed that if we could put a sidewalk there, that'd be great. But otherwise, I know that dealing with the state's not exactly an easy thing to do.
I think it is also in our active transportation plan as a sidewalk gap. Part of that effort was going through and categorizing all of the sidewalk gaps and then putting that together as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So what the high priority is, I don't believe it's a tier 1 priority. That was based on feedback that the consultants Fair and Peers got from residents, I believe, was the kind of key determining factor for tier 1, 2, or 3, which is basically high, medium, and low priorities. But that has been identified as a sidewalk gap closure. I just highlight that because the fact that it's in there allows us to pursue different types of funding, like the Go Sonoma funding. So if there is we do have a sidewalk gap closure project that we submitted for funding. I don't believe this location was part of it because it was only addressing tier 1. But I just wanted to highlight that it is meaningful that it is in that planning document, because at some point we might be able to apply for some grant funding and have that, but your grant applications are always a lot more impactful if you're tying or pulling from a planning document. So.
And am I mistaken or not that sidewalks do help, but what enhances calming even more is a planting, but so there's the street, the curb, a planting, and then a sidewalk? Is that
creating framing the roadway, whether that's residential units, trees, those tend to provide more calming, right? Think about it being on a freeway. You've got nothing on either side of you for hundreds of feet, if not, 100 feet. Doing 25 on the freeway would feel like a crawl, but 45 even feels slow. But 35 on this roadway would feel pretty, again, with the 31 miles an hour is an 85th. 35 would feel a little extravagant on this. So it's all about context. So yeah, framing the roadway does a lot to help. But sidewalks alone, pedestrians on both sides of the street could. Trees, it's about framing. In this case here, you're probably going to get more out of the 20 mile an hour. A little bit of the carrot and stick is really kind of where I would go with that. Is we've tried to encourage things, and people seem to be going about the same speed. The radar feedback signs are one of those. When people start to see that they are exceeding, as opposed to just driving, they're exceeding. That as Ashley said, it is hope that all these things in combination, and that is kind of that next step, the 20 is obviously where we'd like to get to as well. We already addressed that.
Then, and this is just a bigger question, broader question, and we've heard a lot, we hear a lot from you guys about when you do the survey, there's the average speed, there's the 85th percentile and so on. And then I go out to some of these locations and anecdotally, you know, it seems like people are driving 50, and I know they're, you know, Mark Twain said there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics, and you guys give us plenty of statistics. I appreciate that. But it dawned on me as I looked at this, why do you use average speed as opposed to median speed on these?
That is a statistical, one of those items, right? The median is the midpoint where average is, yeah. It kind of gets into this, again, I have a habit of doing this occasionally, but one of the things to note with those 31 miles an hour, like it's 85% of the people, that's one standard deviation above the average, right? So that's what we're looking at. And it's again, that prevailing speed. It's used throughout our statistical analysis. It's a really significant item.
Just a question about the volume. Am I looking at that correctly? 36,000 cars for the first line, for example? 21,000?
It was left open for a long period of time. That's why I highlighted how many days we're out. So this was out Tuesday through Saturday, so almost a whole week. Whereas a few of the other ones are a little bit shorter. And I think it also just changes. I mean, but yes, I believe that was accurately reported.
I mean, I don't know, that seems like a lot of cars in 1 week.
I had the same thought. I was like, really? That many? Yeah, right.
And we can get granular also on all this data. We tend to not because it just takes a lot of time, but we can get granular. I've gotten granular on a couple of the speed surveys that we did down at 5th Street East and Napa Street. The data's there, and we can go in and we can look at it when we need to, put it in spreadsheets. We can come up with averages. We can come up with means. We can do a lot of that if we want to take the time to manipulate it.
Anything else from the committee on this one? I'm going to open up to public comment. Either of you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, I do. Actually.
Go for it.
So again, Christine McMillan from 5th Street West, and I was here when you guys decided to put those speed humps, I think we called them, on Napa. And as much as I hate the speeding on my street, and my car had just been totaled by a speeder a few weeks before, so that's why I came to the meeting, even though it didn't include my street. And even though I understand what the citizens wanted, I really did feel for the firemen because it is an obstacle for them, and I get that. And I actually on 5th Street West live very close to the hospital, so I never for a minute think that I can get a speed bump or anything like that. I don't think that, but I do think that if we do change the speed limit for the whole town, I think most people will do 5 miles over the speed limit, and then we get them at 25. And I'm good with that. You know what I mean? I'm really good with that. I went on Amazon and I got a little speed thing, and I got my cell phone, and I was sitting there and people were flipping me off and doing all kinds of things. But you know, I'm sick of like parking in front of my house, getting out of my car, and people honking at me because I've opened up the driver door, you know? Or my husband's pulling in and they're honking at him because he's pulling into his driveway. Like you're screwing up my shortcut is kind of the thinking. And Street West is all residential, or all in fact, we probably have the most residents because we have across the street, we have the mobile home parks and stuff. And there's a lot of elderly people in there. new people moved in across the street, I haven't gone to visit them because it's like playing Frogger, unless I go in the middle of the night, which I'm not going to do because it's weird. So I just feel like, again, like if I can say it again, I think it needs to be a citywide thing. And I really, really encourage you guys to add the entire city to this. And like, let's get the whole city behind it. And I know the residents will. And they're not going to go 20, but if they go 25, I think we're good.
Yes, thank you. Well, so anybody else from the committee have anything on this? Seeing nothing, no, wait, I guess we don't really have any recommendations or motions to make on this one other than.
It's just how we're rolling tonight.
It's just how, yeah, keep it rolling. Well, that kind of
Yeah,
rolls
and
us.
I think that one of the things that we wanted to just punctuate, this street has been a focal point for a while, as you all know. It's been discussed and discussed again. And we had a special traffic safety meeting dedicated just to this street, if I'm not mistaken. And knowing that we're still pursuing a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on this stretch of road, and we're still putting in the speed radar sign for westbound traffic, we're not giving up. We wish these results would have been a little bit lower, but they are what they are. With the roadway being much smoother and not as many potholes, I think it's good that speeds didn't increase. So maybe our measures had an effect that we're just not seeing because the roadway's smooth out there. People are tempted to go faster now that it's a nice smooth road, but the speed calming measures that we put in have actually slowed traffic down for where it would have been. But here again, we're not giving up. We're putting the speed feedback sign in. We're going to pursue the 20-mile-per-hour on this roadway. And we're going to continue to monitor the speeds as we implement future measures. And I just wanted to emphasize that because we're not done. But right now, we're not considering any additional traffic calming measures other than lowering the speed limit and putting up the speed feedback sign.
Mike, I just want to say, just looking at the speeds, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a city to be that low. I mean, it really is. I mean, in my world, from San Francisco, 31 years, I mean, this is great. Adam, I mean, you got to say, this is really good for a city. Can't get much better than that.
Yeah.
I'd put it out there. I'm
No,
looking at the numbers. I can't believe this.
Thank you.
I will definitely echo what everybody's saying. And I'll echo, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, but this really is great work by Mike and Ashley and Frank and the whole crew. I mean, Spain Street was a hot topic when we started, and it still is a topic. Like you said, we're not done, but it's dramatically better. And it's obviously because of what you guys have been doing. So I think it looks great. And do we want to see the numbers down a little bit? Sure, we always do. But that being said, yeah, you're right. The potholes were probably slowing them down before. Now we have a smooth road that's well designed, that's probably slowing them down, and then we'll get them down to 20 to 25. With that, we can close that item. Are there any other any member have reports or anything? I actually had a question about Malay Street, but they all left, so I'll just have to catch them next time. Okay, any staff comments? I know the chief ran out of here for something, and unless anybody has anything else, Ashley?
Yeah, we did want to update staff. So Friar Pickett Nash is supposed to has actually already started construction. They're lowering iron in anticipation of a pavement project. So we are working with our public information official to push out notices. The contractor is also supposed to notice everyone in the area, but we're really excited that another paving project we have going This is something that the community has been asking for a few years, so we're really happy to be able to deliver that. The PCI on that road was 7, so we're really happy that we're going to be, that's on a scale of 1 to 100. So we're really happy to be able to pave that road and give the residents there, a new road basically. So that is, paving operations are going to start on this upcoming Monday. That in the Friar Pickett Nash area, so we're paving Friar Creek up to Nash Creek, all of Nash, which runs between Pickett and Clay, and then Pickett, which starts on Friar Creek and then comes up to Clay. It's kind of like a little L. Yeah.
Well, I know where I'll be walking my dog tomorrow, so I can walk around that area in Malay Street, so I can check it out. All right, with that, if there's nothing else, let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.